Guys, today I wanted to talk to you about the next step and the first really big step in the research project, which is going to be your outline. It does say typed outline, but for those of you that don't necessarily have reliable internet access or devices to use, I do have a template that will be provided in the packets that go home. So you can use that if you need to. But either way, the goal is that this is the step where you're organizing the information that you found in your articles that you're going to put in your final paper. So you're planning that out. And it's probably a little bit different than a lot of the ways that we've worked with pre-writing before in the past. A lot of what we do, especially for those shorter star style essays, is kind of more graphic and just has maybe circles or boxes or webs to kind of get you thinking that way. This is a little bit more old-fashioned, but it's also has more options for specifying the different levels of information that you might have. I'm not, for this particular assignment, going to require that you use all the different levels that you could use in an outline. I'll show you when we get into Google Docs what I mean there. I'm keeping it pretty simple just because I know for a lot of you this might be the first time you've had to do this, but I still think it's a good tool to have in your belt going forward. And it's, I think, one that is, it's a good skill to know, and it's helpful for this type of writing, I think, more than, like I said, some of the simpler graphic organizers that we might have shown you in the past, your English teachers might have shown you in the past. So we're going over here to our friend Purdy the Owl to get to our research unit. And remember, in Canvas, there's a million ways to get, well, not a million, but there are many ways to get to your assignments. You could have just gone straight to assignments. It might already be showing up in your taskbar on the side. I don't know why I did that with my hand when my hand wasn't on screen. But so typed outline. So we've pushed the deadline back on that. I think it was originally due on April 1st. I pushed it back about a week. And so if we look in here, there's some kind of basic instructions. I'm not going to read it to you because A, you can read it for yourself, and B, I'm kind of going to be going through this as I go through some of these examples with you. The first thing I want to show you right here is this link to the Purdue OWL, that's the online writing lab at Purdue University, about developing an outline. So they're just going to go into probably even more detail I have, so you can refer to that this later, if you need to. And I can't close that box because it's underneath the recording menu, but I'll come back over here. This is the template that I was referring to. So it's a PDF. Let's see if it, oh, that's going to be fun. Well, okay, we'll update that. Let me see if I can try and show this on my screen, and we'll see. Oh. I'm going to see if I can get this to come up. Bear with me here, just so you can see what the blank template looks like, and then we'll dive into how to do it in Google Docs. Okay, so Here we go. Okay, hopefully it's showing up on your screen. If not, I will post a new video later. So this is just, again, a very basic version. This is I'm going to show slightly different numbering system than what they use here, but it's going to give you the basic idea. You're going to have your introduction, where you list your thesis statement and have a little bit of that extra information. And then for your body paragraphs, you're going to have your topic sentences. For what you turn into me, you don't have to have those topic sentences fully written out the way they're going to be in your paper yet. They might just be the basic idea. Hang on just a second while I get that light back on. There we go. Oh, no technology is working for me today. Okay. And then these lines here kind of represent the examples or evidence that you're going to use to support that topic sentence in each of those body paragraphs. And then of course, at the end, you've got space to put what's going to go into your conclusion. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can go back to my Canvas window here. All right. So what we're going to do now is at a sample I already have started on Google Docs to, again, kind of get into some of the details here. And then I'll show you guys really quickly how to have it automatically format for you in Google Docs, because that's just nice and easy. It's not 100% intuitive, though. Most of y'all could probably figure it out on your own, but a few of the little things here and there, I know I've had to learn through trial and error over the years. So I'll try and make that just a little bit easier for y'all. As it says, I think in the instructions on Canvas, each of the Roman numerals here should represent, in my opinion, I know that template had just a little bit different of a system here. Each of the Roman numerals should represent one paragraph that you're planning for your paper. And so numeral number 1 would represent your introduction. You don't actually have to put introduction there. It's kind of self-explanatory that the first one is your introduction, and hopefully it should be pretty clear that your final one is your conclusion, hopefully. And so, like I said, on that Roman numeral level, that's where your topic sentence or your overall topic for that paragraph should be. So for your introduction, for that Roman numeral number 1, I do hope that you already have at least a draft of your thesis statement, since that was your assignment for the previous week. So hopefully you got that done before you moved on to the outline. Again, this is a working process, so if you need to revise that thesis statement as you go, that's fine. Don't feel like, oh, no, that's the one I turned in and I have to keep using it. Of course, if you can phrase it better, or if even you realize after you've done a little bit more reading that maybe you might need to actually change the overall meaning of it because you discovered some new information. Like, that's the whole point of a research paper, is you are learning new information about this topic that you chose for yourself. So if through the course of your research you learned that things weren't exactly the way you thought when you first started out, great. That is the, in some ways, like, best possible scenario. But anyway, like I said, that's the only part in the entire outline that I might even expect a complete sentence. And I don't mean like, oh, if your thesis statement has a grammatical error or doesn't end with a period, I'm taking off points. I just mean everything else can be phrases. Everything else can be fragments right now, because this is the planning stage. It doesn't have to be perfectly written yet, or even close to perfectly written yet. And in my example here, like I said, I don't have complete sentences for a lot of these lower parts. So like I said, the Roman numeral level represents the main topic for each paragraph. And then the capital letters here would represent the examples or evidence or elaboration that go along with it. So if you might recognize this from our last CBA, that's what I used as the model for this outline several years ago, as you can see too. So driving distracted, so their thesis is that we have to do something to put an end to this dangerous behavior, and it gave examples of how much time teenagers spend on their devices. I'm not going to spend too much time getting into this, but again, that first paragraph of that particular article gave, again, specific examples of how serious of an issue this problem is. And so, like I mentioned before, compared to a lot of the visual graphic organizers that you've used before, this style of an outline has the possibility to have lots of levels of detail that you could have. So again, they had one paragraph that talked about how dangerous texting and driving was, even for adults and professional experienced drivers. That it's not just a problem with teenagers. And it gave some specific examples of a Los Angeles train wreck and a bus wreck in San Antonio. And so I'm just showing you here, like I said, I'm not going to require this for what you turn into me, but I'm just showing you here how much detail you could choose to include in the outline. And I wanted to show you this just again, because if you use the outline to the maximum extent of its capabilities, it could make writing your final paper super easy, to where you're just basically adding transitions and cleaning up the wording and all of that. So for something like this, where you are not necessarily coming up with everything from your own head like you do when you write those STAR essays, where you are synthesizing, you're compiling all this information that you found in those different articles and books and whatever all you've been reading to or using to complete this research, you can really make your writing much easier if, like I said, you use this as a planning tool. But this part here is a little bit more the level of what I'm looking for in yours. So I want to see that your outline that you turn into me has at least, you can have more, but at least 5 Roman numerals. So 1 for the introduction and 1 for a conclusion, and then at least 3 body paragraphs. You could have more, but again, to meet the length requirement here, you probably are going to want to have at least 3 body paragraphs, because otherwise, if you're meeting the minimum length requirement without having that many paragraphs, they're going to be very long, possibly confusing paragraphs. So I hate giving requirements like that, but in this case, I think it's just kind of for your benefit, not just so I can say, yes, it has to be this long. And then within your body paragraph, I want to see at least an A, a B, and a C. So at least 3 examples or pieces of evidence or explanations of that main topic that you would have in there. You don't have to have necessarily 3 of them for your intro and your conclusion, but for the body paragraph, I want to have at least an A, a B, and a C. These other levels, that's completely optional. That's up to you. If you feel like that's something that is helpful to you, great. If that is a little too confusing or a little too overwhelming right now, I understand. Last thing before I show you just how to do this formatting, I have the example in here of how you might keep track of where your evidence is coming from. That part for the outline is 100% optional. So of course, when you write your final paper, you're going to need to give credit to your sources, because otherwise that's plagiarism and will get us in all sorts of trouble and bad grades, and we don't want any of that to happen. So I'm just showing this to you because, like I said, in my opinion, it can be very helpful if, as you plan, you keep track of where that came from, so that later on you're not searching for it when you're getting to the stage of writing the paper. But sometimes, like if you know, oh, I'm trying to think of an example and I'm failing. But say you just know that in that paragraph, let's say we'll go back to my default example of World War II. If you know in that paragraph you want to talk about the different weapons that that were used for the first time, or that were pioneered in World War II. And you know off the top of your head, yes, you're going to talk about the V1s and the V2s, and yes, you're going to talk about the nuclear bombs or the atomic bombs. But you don't have the exact details from your sources yet. You know, again, you don't have to have that at this stage. But like I said, if you do know where that's going to come from, it can be very helpful to you when you write your final paper. So this is just kind of, like I said, an example to show you. All right, really quick. Well, all relatively quick, I'm going to show you just how to find this formatting and how to use it. Like I said, it's pretty simple, but there are a couple little quirks. So if you're in Google Docs and you go over here to where it says numbered list, and hopefully your computer is not any slower than mine, numbered list, the middle one on the bottom row is the formatting that I prefer. As far as the rubric is concerned, I'm pretty sure all the wording on the rubric basically says is that it's clear and consistent. So if you accidentally choose one of these other ones, or if you've learned another one in the past and you use that, as long as it's obvious how things are organized, I'm not going to take off points for, oh no, you have letters here and those are supposed to be numbers, or, you know, no, that's not the goal here. So like I said, so the first level is the Roman numeral, and the way that the Google Docs does this, if you hit enter after that, it's going to assume you're ready for your next step on that same level. And if you really wanted to, you could do, you know, you could say, okay, I know this is going to be my first topic, this is going to be my second topic, this is my third topic, and then you could go through and add the evidence later. Personally, that's not how I work. I would want to go ahead and start adding my examples here. And so what you'll do to do that is hit the tab key, and then you could go on like that. And as many times as you want. So if you decided, you know what, I do want to actually add okay, but then once you realize, oh, hey, okay, I've done as much as I'm going to on that level. This is the part that gets tricky for some people, but it turns out it's super easy, or relatively easy. So let me show you again real quick. So once you're ready to go back to a bigger level, further out to the left here, to either your next Roman numeral or your next capital letter, so either your next paragraph or your next big example, you hit enter once and then again, and it takes you back out, and you could even hit it another time and it'll take you all the way to the end. So I know it took me longer than I care to admit to figure out that little trick, but that's how you move back to the outer levels of your outline when you're doing this. And then it's just the same. So you would hit enter, and then you would tab in if you need to move to the next level. So hopefully that is not too confusing. Technology is not being my friend right now. So again, there's the rubric on here. It's almost identical to the rubric for your final paper, but again, the expectation is obviously for not even a draft, but for a well-planned pre-writing. So I don't, expect that there is perfect grammar or anything like that. But I do expect that it's relatively clear what you're planning, so that I can help you if that's what we need. I think that's all I've got for you. Let me try and end this without too much awkwardness. Have a great week, and let me know if you have any questions.